All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody. This is Real Estate Objection Handling. I'm Brett Matsura, and welcome. So in today's training, what I want to go over is the rebuttal on will you cut your commissions? Other agents say they will. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to move into the next slide. Now, this is part of my ongoing series of rebuttaling the 40 real estate objections on this Mike Ferry form. Now, I use conversational selling. I have a background and a foundation with the Mike Ferry organization. I know I've been in the business for 23 years, and one of the best things I did when I was a new agent is that I jumped into Mike's one-on-one coaching within the first 6 months. And it really gave me a foundation of who I am now. But I'm very conversational. I've created my own kind of techniques with the foundation of the Mike Ferry. But I would recommend that if you want to download this script, you can go to mikeferry.com. There's a bunch of free resources, and you can download all of his objection handling. Now, the way that I break down my rebuttals is I look at Mike Ferry as traditional karate, right? Very hardcore, straight to the point, breaking bricks. And the style that I have using conversational selling has more NLP in it. If you're familiar with that, neuro-linguistic programming, it's very conversational selling. Accomplishes both things, except my whole thing with my personality, I don't have that driver personality that would be very successful at just kind of going through the throat. So I use what's called the ultimate rebuttal formula. And in essence, it's the way that you rebuttal an objection. It's not just the words that you say. So when somebody asks you a question, or when somebody objects to maybe something that what you say, the way that you rebuttal that, it's not just words, right? I just can't just teach you a sentence to say, and it's going to be magical, and it's just going to change things for the whole scenario. Now, words are, of course, and communication, of course, are very important, but it's the structure of the rebuttal that works. Now, I've done this objection before in previous videos, and what you'll find is that the training that I did on that objection, while the format is the same, the way that I go about it is going to be different, and it's going to be different for you out in the field, and it's going to be different based on the criteria and the situation of the home seller. So as far as the structure goes, I call this the ultimate rebuttal formula. You're going to first acknowledge, right? It's active listening. So you want to make sure that the other party knows that you're listening. Has there ever been a time where you're actually talking to someone and like the lights aren't on, right? You say something and they just, look at you like deer in the headlights. Okay, they're not listening to you. So to show somebody that you're listening to them, you have to acknowledge what they say. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Now, second, you have to approve. You have to make them right. Don't make them wrong. Now, you may not agree with what they say, but you can acknowledge it. I'm going to be using a technique that's called deflecting. And I'm also in this training, I'm going to work with you on level shifting as well. And then you're going to throw in a softener. There are things that you can say that you need to soften the blow. Something that's very normal is if you go up to someone and say, you know what, Brett, I got some bad news. Okay, now you're preparing them instead of just coming in and just unloading on it. Now, not everything's bad news. A softener is just meant to soften what you're going to say next, so it's not so direct to the point. And then the last thing you're going to do is ask a question. The person who asks the questions in a conversation will always control the conversation. Now, if you want to know if you're controlling the conversation, then you need to ask yourself, are you the one answering the questions, or are you the one asking the questions? Because the person who's asking the question is controlling the conversation. Now, a conversation by definition is a two-way street. You say something, they say something. But if you want to control the conversation, you can control the type of questions that you have, so you're controlling the answers that they give. Yes, no questions are very controllable. Slightly multiple choice questions are very controllable. This or that is very controllable. So that's really what we're going to be focusing on today. So going back to it, let's start off. Okay. you want me to reduce my, so you're in, let's set up the scenario. You're on a conversation with the seller, whether it be on the phone or whether, ideally this is something that you're going to be having a conversation at the kitchen table, but you should be utilizing Zoom and virtual platforms to do listing presentations in addition to the kitchen table. Not only is it more efficient as far as time goes, but it's easier to get somebody to agree to a web conference when especially with two people working, than it is to actually get them to do a face-to-face. Now, if you can get a face-to-face appointment, go for that, especially if it's a listing presentation. But if you can't, fall back and try to get them on a web conference. I would say use Zoom for web conferencing, simply because it's, in the last 6 months or since March, it's turned into a verb. So it's like the thing that everybody knows. Anyways, so the objection that we're working on is, will you cut your commission? Other agents say they will. Now, the first thing you need to do, what I recommend you do, is that you need to repeat what they just said to you as a question. Now, how do you do that? You want me to reduce my commission? Okay, notice how I have an upswing at the end of it. Now, if you don't have something to say, if you don't practice this, sometimes people will come at you and say something that is off the cuff that you weren't expecting. Your go-to response should be repeating that in the frame of a question. Give your time to process it to see what you're going to say next. But in this case, anytime when money comes up, when compensation comes up, I go to, number one, repeating the question, repeating their statement or their objection as a question, but I have an upswing to turn that into a question back to them. But I'm also going to work with you guys on a technique called the power of being fair. So they give me the objection. I'm like, you want me to reduce my commission? And then they're going to give you a little bit more information. Most of the people aren't just going to say, yeah, I want you to reduce your commission. Most people will give you a little bit more validation. And in this scenario, they're saying, yes, other agents say they'll do it. Okay, now we're on to something. Now, following the ultimate rebuttal formula, I'm going to acknowledge what they said, but now I'm going to deflect and I'm doing a level shift. Okay, now I'm going to read this out and then I'm going to break it down for you. Mr. Seller, I can appreciate why a homeowner would be appealing to work with a discount agent. In fact, most homeowners want to net the most money for the sale of their house. Is that true for you? Okay, so look what I just did there. I can appreciate why a homeowner would want to work with a discount agent. So not only did I acknowledge what they said, I did two level shifts in here. Not only did I acknowledge what they said, but I changed it from them wanting a discount because other agents will do it. And I'm saying, look, I can see how it could be appealing to work with a discount agent. So I did two things there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them right. And I'm also going to do a level shift, but I'm not going to do it directly. I'm going to use a technique called deflection. So in fact, most homeowners, look, this is a one-on-one conversation that I'm having with the seller. And when I say most homeowners, really what I'm talking about is them. I'm just bunching them into a group to be right. I'm like banking it off the wall. I'm playing pool with him. I'm banking it off the side rail to hit him in the corner pocket. So in fact, most homeowners, they want to net the most money for the seller of their house. See, I level shifted it again. So I level shifted it from being, I want a discount. I want you to cut your commission because most agents will. And I level shifted it by them saying, hey, I get that you might want to, why it would be appealing to work with a discount broker. And then I made them right by acknowledging that most homeowners want to net the most money. See, in most cases, they don't want to just get a lower fee just for the sake of getting a lower fee. They want to get a lower fee because in their perception, they'll net more money. Look, it's logical. It's logical. Pay less, get more. If all things being the same, if your value proposition is the same as every other real estate agent's, then I would say that you're probably going to lose out on money if you're not willing to cut your commission. But that's where you have to increase your value proposition. Now, that's a little bit outside of this training specifically on this, but part of this whole group is practicing your listing presentation and your listing presentation has to come down with your value proposition. And your value proposition has to be strong. It has to be strong so you're not a commodity, right? A commodity is it should, the lowest price wins. You need to make it so you're the expert, you're the specialist to sell their home and get them what they want. So back onto the subject. So I can appreciate why you would why a homeowner would be appealing to work with a discount broker. In fact, most homeowners want to net the most money for the sale of their home. Question, right? Is that true for you? So look, guys, if you guys have watched some of my videos before, been on my trainings, there are 3 common traits to every homeowner. They want to sell their home for the most money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Because I've never, ever, ever in my 23 years come across a homeowner that tells me, hey, Brett, I want to sell my home for the longest period of time, for the lowest amount of money with the most amount of hassle. But yet that's exactly what people are doing if they go for a for sale by owner. They just don't understand that. So moving on. So that's how I'm going to acknowledge, deflect, and level shift. Now I'm going to tie into the power of being fair. So guys, if you guys have ever talked to me and you guys talk to me about compensation, if you come to me, if you've watched other video trainings of mine, my go-to is the power of being fair. Now I want you guys to think about this. Has there ever been a time where you've been in a situation where you felt the other party was being unfair to you? Now think about what that feels like. Nobody wants to be treated unfairly. Now, I also want you to flip the coin on that. Has there ever been a time where you've been in a position where you felt that the other party felt that you were being unfair? Okay. So that's the emotion that I want to elicit in this next section of the rebuttal. See, nobody wants to be treated unfairly, and nobody wants to be that person who is being treated, who's treating somebody unfairly. So here's what we're going to do. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've built a business on being fair. And I'm not interested in doing any business with anybody unless all parties feel it's fair, unless it's a win-win situation. Like, I'm not interested in it. Now, is that what you're looking to do? Is that okay with you? Is that the same thing that you're looking to do? Look, it takes a special kind of someone to say, no, I'm not looking for a fair deal. No, I'm not looking for a win-win situation. I win and you lose. That's the only way I'm doing that. And when I've never come up across with someone like that, but when you do, or if I do, look, that's not somebody who I want to do business with. So I did this because now subconsciously the seller is thinking about, well, God, am I being fair? I don't want to be unfair. I don't want to be, does he think I'm being unfair? That's the internal dialogue that I want them to have. Now, guys, this is just communication. This is just me understanding communication. Look, I use my powers for good, and I'm not interested in trying to manipulate anybody's situation to sell them a bag of goods. I honestly feel that the services that I provide are the best services I provide, and the fee that I charge is fair for the services that I provide. It doesn't matter if it's selling real estate. I've sold a ton of homes if I were to go back into that space. And it doesn't matter if it was, sales training or whatnot, like you're doing this. I believe that to be true. Now, it's okay if I lose out on cost, but it's not going to be on the merits, right? Okay, so that's the power of being fair, and that's that part of that rebuttal. Now, the next slide is we're going to validate my experience. Okay, so we're looking at the power of being fair, and I ended it with a question. Notice how every part of the rebuttal is I'm asking either an open-ended question, a closed-ended question, or a multiple choice question. Really, it's not multiple choice. Usually it's this or that. I really am going to try to shy away from an open-ended question because I want to control the direction of this conversation. And when you leave an open-ended question, that could take it off onto a whole different track. And I'm not ready for that yet. I want to handle this objection. So I asked it, is that okay with you? And then I'm going to go, look, in the past 10 years, now I've been doing this for 23 years, but insert your experience here. In the past 10 years, my company and I have literally sold hundreds of homes in your area. I'm very familiar with your neighborhood. We've sold a ton of homes in your neighborhood, sold a ton of your neighbor homes. Now, before we talk about the commission, I just want to ask you a question. I want to make sure. Do you feel that I have the experience, market knowledge, and the action plan that can get your home sold? It's a legitimate question. Okay, now you're validating it. Okay, before you start talking about commission, you want to make sure that they feel that you're the right person for the job. And the right person for the job has to do experience, market knowledge, but ultimately getting the job done. What is your action plan? Okay, and that's where I talk about your value proposition. You need to have a strong value proposition that separates you from the competition. Now, if I were to go back into production and I was going to do that, I'm going to go very heavy on my 23 years of experience, my position within the organization that I have, the thousands of homes I've sold, not just locally, but across 26 states, right? That's what I would do on my value proposition. What is it that you're going to do that's going to separate you? It might be your experience. Now, when you're new, it's going to be hard to compete with that experience. So you have to go out and get that experience. Now, not for this video, because we only have a few minutes left, but you want to make sure that you're actually previewing properties and knowing the market and actually, showcasing your experience using these digital platforms. So, but that's what I'm going to do. In the past 10 years, me and my company have sold literally hundreds of homes in your area. Now, before we talk about commission, I just want to make sure of something. Let me ask you, do you feel that I have the experience, market knowledge, and the action plan that can get your home sold, that can get you what you want in the time you want? Do you feel that? Well, yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to go on. Now you're going to ask the question. Now we've asked a bunch of questions, but this is kind of leading down into things. Okay, great. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what is it about my service that you feel is not fair about the commission I charge? Now you're flipping the coin, right? What is it specifically that you think that I'm not worth what I'm asking for? And now you're going to create doubt and adjust the perceived value. Okay, let's back up. So their answer is going to look, it's not that, because now you're kind of putting them on the defense. They're going to think about it. They only want a discount because they think it's going to net the most money. It's not because you don't feel that you can do the job. So it's not that. I just think that if others are charging a lower rate, then why can't you? Common objection, right? Common thing for somebody to say. I went backwards on that. Look, I totally understand. And the discount agents that you've spoken to, do they have the same level of experience that I do? Right? Have they sold thousands of homes? Have they sold hundreds of homes? Have they sold your neighbor's homes? Do they do more than one transaction a year? Right? Do they do 20 transactions a year? Input your experience here. And then they're going to say, well, look, they're going to say, I don't know, or they're going to say no, or they're going to say, I think so. They're going to come up with something like that. And then now you're going to let them determine the price. Okay, well, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look, I believe that for the experience and services that I provide, is that I feel that my commission rate is fair. Okay. And you're shaking your head yes at the same time. However, in order to get the home listed tonight, now you're setting a time frame. Okay. What would it take? What do you feel would be a fair commission if we were to get your home listed tonight? Now they're going to say whatever they're going to say. They might say 3%. And you're going to just, you're going to be shocked. They might say 5%. They might say 6%. They might just cave on that. And whatever they're going to say, you're going to pause and you're going to think about it and say, look, I can't do that low. I just can't, right? For the level of service that I'm going to provide you, for the level of experience I can do, I simply can't go that low, but here's what I can do. Okay. Now this is where you're going to insert your deal, right? Maybe the deal is going to be that, look, I'll list at this price, list with me for the next 30 days. And if in fact, my action plan does not get you an offer near, the list price, then I will reduce my count by 0.5 point. So in a sense, we have a built-in mechanism that ensures that I help you get what you want. And if I perform, then, it's a bonus. If I don't perform, then we reduce that. Is that fair? Most of the time when someone comes up with an objection and you acknowledge it and you rebuttal it with confidence and with clarity, then they are going to, they're not going to go much level deep. Now they might say, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Okay, well, what will you do? Right? It's a negotiation. So you don't want to be bidding against yourself. Everything that's coming up is them and you're just responding to it. Now, so guys, that's what I got for this training. Now, for those of you that are in the real estate role playing, look, group. I'm going to go ahead and end this pretty soon so that you guys can have time. You guys can practice this. Give me a second. I'll get this whole thing uploaded onto the schedule so that you have access to it. Now, for those of you that are not part of the real estate role-playing group and you're here for the training for the first time, I got to tell you something. Nobody gets better at anything without practice. It's fine doing these trainings. It's fine, practicing and chanting these on their own. But if you're going to get better at anything, then you need to practice. And I would encourage you to go over to realestateroleplaying.com. In fact, let me go ahead and do this. It's right here, realestateroleplaying.com. If you want to get on the schedule, if you want to be part of the North America's largest, most organized real estate role-playing group, then sign up there and you can be partnered up with a different partner every single day of the week with 3 different groups, but you'll be able to check out more there. So guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for those of you that attended live. Thank you for catching this on the replay. Get out there, make some contacts, have some conversations, and close some deals. Have a great day.